My name is Tyler. I'm 15, and my little sister Becky is 13. If you had asked me a week ago whether I believed in strange family secrets or haunted houses, I would have laughed. But now, sitting in this dim bedroom with the camera's red light blinking at me, I know for sure. Some places are better left unknown. It all began with Mom's announcement. She said it casually over breakfast. "It's time you met your grandparents." Becky almost choked on her cereal, surprised. I just stared at her. Mom hadn't spoken about them in years. Whenever we asked, she brushed it off with a vague, "They live far away. Maybe one day." Now suddenly it was urgent. "Why now?" I asked. Mom's smile was tight. "They really want to see you." That was all. No explanation, no details. Becky, of course, saw it as a chance for adventure. She was already fiddling with her phone, talking about filming everything. A real-life documentary. Meeting long-lost family, country vibes, creepy old house. Tyler, this will be gold for my channel. The car ride was endless. Forests blurred into fields, and fields into more forests. My stomach tightened the further we drove. Mom kept quiet most of the way, gripping the steering wheel too hard. When we finally turned down a narrow gravel road, Becky pressed her face against the window. At the end of the path stood a large, weathered house. The paint was peeling, the shutters half open like watchful eyes. On the porch stood Grandma and Grandpa, waving with strange, exaggerated smiles. They hugged us too tightly, their skin cold despite the warm evening. Grandma smelled faintly of herbs and smoke. Grandpa's grip lingered a little too long on my shoulder. Their words were sweet, but their eyes, there was something unsettling in them, a brightness that didn't belong. Dinner was awkward. Grandma served chicken and biscuits, insisting we eat more. Grandpa told stories about the good old days, but none of them sounded real. Too polished, too rehearsed. Becky kept recording, giggling at everything, while I tried not to stare at the grandfather clock in the corner that ticked too loudly, almost like it was keeping time for something else. That night, I couldn't sleep. I heard noises, scraping, shuffling, as if something moved beneath the floorboards. I grabbed Becky's camera and pointed it toward the sound. For a split second, I saw a figure. Dark, hunched, slipping into the corner of the hall before vanishing. My breath froze in my chest. I replayed the footage twice. The shape was real. In the morning, I showed Becky. She laughed it off. "Ty, you were half asleep. It's probably shadows. Don't start freaking out already." But I wasn't imagining things. I knew it. And deep down, I felt our documentary had just turned into something far darker than Becky could ever imagine. The second day at Grandma and Grandpa's felt off, not just because of the strange noises at night, but because of the way they watched us. At breakfast, Becky kept cracking jokes, trying to film a wholesome family morning. But every time she pointed the camera toward Grandma, Grandma's smile froze, as if her face couldn't decide what expression it should wear. "Children," Grandpa said suddenly, setting down his coffee cup with a sharp clink. "There are a few traditions in this house. Things you must follow while you're here." Mom had already left early that morning, saying she needed to pick up groceries in town. She didn't even let us come with her. It felt intentional. "What kind of rules?" Becky asked, half laughing. Grandpa's eyes darkened. "First, you must not leave the house after 9 o'clock. Ever. No matter what you hear outside. Second, the mirror in the attic is forbidden. Do not look into it. And third," his voice lowered, almost a whisper, "do not answer if someone calls your name at night." Becky burst out laughing. "You're kidding, right? That's like straight out of a horror movie." She turned to her camera, filming herself grinning. Day 2. House rules are creepy as heck. Stay tuned. But Grandma didn't laugh. Her hands were trembling as she poured syrup onto Becky's pancakes, spilling it across the table. She didn't clean it up. She just kept pouring until the sticky liquid dripped onto the floor. "Traditions," she muttered. "You'll respect them." Then she suddenly snapped upright and smiled again, the way someone might put on a mask. The rest of the day dragged. Grandpa showed us the basement full of old tools, while Grandma baked pies, humming an off-key tune that I swear I'd heard in my dreams the night before. By sunset, the air grew heavy. The woods outside the windows looked darker than they should have. Becky sat editing her footage while I paced the hallway, uneasy. At exactly 9, Grandma walked through the house, closing curtains, locking doors. Bedtime, she chirped, though it was way too early. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Then I heard it again, footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving beneath the floorboards. Becky was asleep, her camera lying on a nightstand still recording with the little red light. The footsteps stopped. Silence. And then, Tyler, my blood ran cold. The voice was soft, sweet, almost like Mom's. It came from the hallway outside our room. I held my breath, clenching my fists. The rules echoed in my head. Don't answer if someone calls your name at night. The doorknob began to turn. The doorknob rattled once, twice, then stilled. Becky stirred in her sleep, but didn't wake. The camera on the nightstand caught everything, its little red light blinking in the dark. Tyler. The voice came again, right outside our door. Softer this time, but urgent. Like Mom when she was worried. My throat went dry. I wanted to answer, to ask if she'd come back early from town. But my legs wouldn't move, and in the back of my mind, I could still hear Grandpa's warning. Do not answer if someone calls your name at night. I held my breath. The silence stretched. Then, slowly, the sound of footsteps retreated down the hallway. I didn't sleep at all. In the morning, Becky teased me for looking like a zombie. Rough night, Ty. Maybe you should stop watching your own creepy footage before bed. She laughed, scrolling through her camera files. Check last night's video, I said quietly. She rolled her eyes, but played it. The screen showed our room in night vision green. The two of us in bed. The door in the corner. At first, nothing. Just silence. Then, click. The door handle moved. A sliver of the hallway appeared. And in that narrow gap, a pale face leaned in. Becky's laughter died in her throat. The face didn't belong to Grandma, or Grandpa, or Mom. It was thinner, stretched, the eyes too large and glassy, the mouth just a dark slit. It tilted its head like it was listening, and then it whispered, Tyler. Becky slammed the laptop shut. Nope. Nope. That's a glitch. Some camera distortion. Right. But her hands were shaking. We didn't tell Grandma or Grandpa. How could we? They already acted like everything in this house was normal. Later that afternoon, while Becky was outside filming wholesome country vibes, I wandered upstairs. The attic door stood at the end of the hall. Closed. The wood looked old, warped, like it had been locked for decades. I swear I felt something on the other side. Breathing. Waiting. I hurried back down before anyone saw me. That evening, when Grandma set the table for dinner, I noticed her lips moving silently, like she was repeating a prayer. Grandpa just stared out the window, eyes unfocused. I kept thinking about the rules, especially the one about the mirror. By the fourth day, Becky and I were no longer laughing about the rules. She tried to keep up the fun vlog act, but even she couldn't ignore the tension in the air. Grandma's smiles felt stretched too wide. Grandpa rarely blinked, staring through windows as if he expected someone or something to arrive. That afternoon, when they both dozed off in their armchairs, I nudged Becky. Let's check the attic. She frowned. Are you serious? That's literally rule 2. Exactly, I whispered. Don't you want to know why? Becky hesitated, then grabbed her camera. Fine, but if we get caught, I'm blaming you. The stairs creaked as we climbed. Dust floated in the narrow beam of Becky's flashlight. The attic door groaned when I pushed it open, revealing a space choked with old trunks, boxes, and cobwebs. At first, it looked like any other storage room. But then we saw it. A tall, cracked mirror standing against the far wall, draped in a yellowed sheet. Becky lifted her camera. Ladies and gentlemen, she whispered, the forbidden mirror. She pulled the sheet off. The mirror's surface was dark, cloudy, almost liquid. Not reflective like a normal mirror, but rippling faintly, as though it were water disturbed by a hidden current. I stepped closer and froze. My reflection didn't match me. It moved slower, a half-second delay. Its eyes lingered on me longer than they should have. When I raised my hand, it raised its too, but the grin on its face stretched wider than mine. Becky gasped. Tyler, do you see that? Before I could answer, the attic door slammed shut behind us. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Becky screamed, spinning with her flashlight. From the mirror, another reflection appeared, 2 figures standing behind us. Grandma and Grandpa. but they didn't look like the people we knew. Their faces were hollow, sunken, mouths open in silent screams. Then came the knocking. From inside the mirror. Slow, heavy, as if someone was trapped inside and wanted out. Becky dropped the camera. We need to leave. Now. I yanked the attic door open, my heart hammering, and we bolted downstairs. When we reached the living room, Grandma was already standing there, smiling calmly, holding a tray of cookies. "You weren't in the attic, were you?" she asked sweetly. Her voice was light, but her eyes told me she already knew. Grandma's question hung in the air like a knife. "You weren't in the attic, were you?" Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Becky clutched my arm so hard her nails dug into my skin. We were just exploring," Becky stammered. "Didn't go in. Just like Pete." Grandma tilted her head, studying us. For a moment, her face seemed to twitch, like something beneath her skin was trying to push through. Then she laughed. Too loud, too sharp. "Oh, my silly darlings. The attic is full of dust and danger. Stay away from it, for your own good." She set the cookies down on the table with shaking hands. Her knuckles were white. That night at dinner, the tension cracked. Grandpa barely touched his food, staring at his plate. Grandma muttered under her breath, words that didn't sound like English. Becky tried to film discreetly, but when her camera pointed toward Grandma, something terrifying happened. The lens flickered, and for a split second, the image showed Grandma's face twisted, her mouth stretched unnaturally wide, eyes black and hollow. Then the screen cut back to normal, as if nothing had happened. Becky yelped and dropped the camera. "What's wrong, dear?" Grandma asked, her voice syrupy sweet. Becky didn't answer. She just kicked the camera under the table, shaking. After dinner, when the house grew quiet, we sneaked into the storage room where Grandpa kept his old VHS tapes. Becky insisted on checking them, convinced there had to be something. We found one labeled in messy handwriting, "Do not watch." Of course, we watched. The screen lit up with a shaky recording. It was Grandma and Grandpa, but not the versions we knew. They were pale, thin, frantic. They looked terrified. "Don't trust them," Grandma whispered on the tape. "We're not ourselves anymore. They took our faces." Then Grandpa leaned into the camera, eyes wild. "Never open the attic mirror. Never answer the voices. For God's sake, don't stay after dark." The screen cut to static. Becky clutched my arm. "Tyler, that wasn't them. At least, not the ones downstairs." Before I could reply, the static cleared for just 1 second. The screen showed 2 figures standing right behind us in the storage room. We spun around. The door was wide open, and Grandma stood there, smiling. Grandma's silhouette filled the doorway, her smile stretched far too wide. Becky clutched the VHS tape to her chest, as if it might protect her. "What are you children doing in here?" Grandma asked softly, her voice almost sing-song. "That room is not for you." I forced a laugh, my throat dry. "We were just curious." Her eyes glinted. "Curiosity is dangerous, especially here." She stepped forward, and for a split second, her shadow stretched unnaturally long across the floor, reaching toward us like fingers. I grabbed Becky's hand and pulled her past Grandma, down the hall. She didn't chase us. She just watched, smiling. That night, Becky and I whispered under the covers, the camera propped on the dresser still recording. "We have to leave," Becky said. "Tomorrow morning, before they even wake up." I nodded. "But how? Mom still has the car. Remember? She left and never came back." The words stung. She'd been gone for days now. Every time I tried to call, the phone just buzzed with static. "Then we walk," Becky said. "I don't care if it's miles. I'm not staying another night in this house." We agreed. At first light, we'd sneak out. But plans don't survive a night in that house. Sometime past midnight, I woke to the sound of footsteps outside our window. Slow, crunching on gravel. Becky stirred too, eyes wide in the dark. Then knock, knock, knock. 3 sharp raps on the glass. We froze. Slowly, we turned our heads. A face pressed against the window. Pale, hollow-eyed, grinning. It wasn't Grandma. It wasn't Grandpa. It wasn't anyone I knew. "Tyler." "Becky," the thing whispered through the glass. Becky clamped her hand over her mouth to keep from screaming. We huddled under the covers, praying it would go away. The knocking stopped, but a few seconds later, we heard the front door creak open. Becky's whisper trembled. "It's inside." The front door groaned, shut somewhere below. The house went still again, but not silent. Becky and I held our breath, listening. Creak. Floorboards bent under weight that wasn't human. Something was moving slowly through the hallway, pausing between each step like it wanted us to hear. Becky squeezed my hand until it hurt. "Tyler," she mouthed. I grabbed the camera and turned it toward the door. The night vision flickered green. At first, just shadows. Then movement. A figure slid past the crack beneath the door. Not walking, gliding. The outline was wrong. Too thin in some places, too long in others, its head cocked at an unnatural angle. "Tyler," it whispered again, closer this time. The voice wasn't coming from its mouth. It was leaking from the walls, the ceiling, the floor all at once. I wanted to scream, but I pressed my hand over my mouth. Becky's eyes were streaming with silent tears. The doorknob turned. Slowly, carefully, then stopped. Instead of entering, the thing moved away. We could hear it drifting down the hall toward Grandma and Grandpa's room. And then, silence. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Neither did Becky. When the first gray light of dawn broke through the curtains, Becky whispered, "Now. We leave now." We stuffed our backpacks with clothes, water bottles, the camera, and the VHS tape. I slipped the tape into a side pocket like it was some kind of talisman. Downstairs, the house looked too normal. Grandpa sat at the table, sipping coffee, eyes locked on the window. Grandma was stirring something on the stove, humming that same eerie, broken tune. Becky whispered, "Don't say anything. Just walk." We crept toward the front door. My hand touched the knob. Hope surged. Going somewhere. Grandpa's voice cut through the air. We turned. His eyes weren't his anymore. They were black, bottomless pits, and his grin split his face too wide. Grandpa rose slowly from his chair, his movements stiff, jerky, as if someone were pulling his limbs by invisible strings. The coffee cup slipped from his hand and shattered on the floor, but he didn't flinch. "Going somewhere," he repeated, the words drawn out, almost mocking. Becky clutched my arm, whispering, "Tyler," his eyes. I couldn't look away. They were voids, no whites, no pupils, just endless black. His smile stretched unnaturally as he stepped toward us. "Well, I wanted to go for a walk," I said, my voice shaking. His grin widened. "A walk? No, no, no. Not safe outside. Too many voices. Better to stay inside. Safer." Behind him, Grandma turned from the stove. Her face twitched, the skin rippling as though something beneath it was trying to push through. For a moment, her smile dropped, and her mouth opened unnaturally wide. Her voice came out as a hiss. "They're watching you." Becky pulled me toward the door, fumbling with the lock. Grandpa's hand shot out, slamming against the wood beside my head. His fingernails were too long, cracked, scraping against the surface. "You don't leave," he growled, the sweetness gone from his voice. "Not until it's finished." "What's finished?" I blurted. He leaned close, and for the first time, I smelled it, the rot. Damp earth, old blood, something that should have been buried. "The exchange," he whispered. Grandma began chanting in the kitchen, low and guttural, words that twisted my stomach to hear. The walls of the house seemed to vibrate with her voice. Becky shoved the VHS tape into Grandpa's chest. For a moment, his body convulsed, like the sight of it hurt him. His grip loosened, and I yanked Becky through the door. We ran down the porch steps into the cold morning air. The forest loomed in every direction, but we didn't care. We bolted down the gravel road as fast as we could. Behind us, the house groaned, almost like it was alive. Grandma's chanting grew louder, echoing through the trees. And then, faintly, we heard Grandpa's voice again, closer than it should have been. "You can't leave. You're ours now." The gravel road twisted into the woods, swallowed by shadows, even though the sun was rising. My lungs burned as we ran, Becky's grip tight on my hand. Every snap of a branch, every rustle of leaves made me think they were right behind us. "Tyler, look!" Becky gasped. Up ahead, in a small clearing, stood something impossible, another house. It looked identical to Grandma and Grandpa's, the same sagging roof, the same crooked porch, even the same faded curtains in the windows. We froze. "What the hell?" I whispered. Becky shook her head. No, this can't be real." We circled the clearing, searching for any other path. But no matter which way we turned, the forest closed in tight. The road behind us was gone. The only way forward was the house. "Tyler," Becky whispered, her voice trembling. "What if this is the same one? Like we never left?" I didn't want to believe it. My mind scrambled for logic. Maybe this was some kind of abandoned copy. Maybe the whole family lived in identical houses. But my gut, I knew. We had run in a circle without ever turning. The camera in Becky's hand blinked red, still recording. The lens caught something in the window of the duplicate house. 2 figures. Grandma and Grandpa, staring out, smiling. Suddenly, a sound broke the silence. The VHS tape player clicking on. But it wasn't in our backpacks. It was inside the house. The same distorted video began to play, faintly audible through the walls. "Don't trust them. They took our faces." Becky clutched my arm. "Tyler, they're trying to trap us." I wanted to run again, to disappear into the woods, but the forest seemed to bend inward, branches arching like prison bars. The house was the only way. Then, from behind us, the whisper returned, too close, too cold. "Tyler, Becky." We turned. Between the trees, something was moving, not walking, crawling, pale limbs bending the wrong way, dragging itself toward us. Its face shifted every second. First Grandma's, then Grandpa's, then Mom's. Becky screamed, "Tyler, what do we do?" I grabbed her hand, staring at the house that shouldn't exist. "We go inside. It's the only way." We stumbled up the porch steps of the duplicate house, the pale thing dragging itself closer through the woods behind us. The front door opened with a creak, as if it had been waiting. Inside, the air was colder than outside. The walls were the same faded wallpaper, the same creaking floorboards, but the house felt emptier. Dead. In the center of the living room stood the mirror from the attic. Only here it wasn't cracked or covered. It gleamed, tall and perfect like a black pool of water. Becky tightened her grip on the camera. "This is wrong. Ty, this isn't a house. It's something else." The mirror rippled, and then we saw them. Grandma and Grandpa, but the real ones. Frail, terrified, pressed against the glass from the other side. Their lips moved desperately, but no sound came through. Their eyes begged us to help. Behind us, the crawling thing entered the doorway, its shifting faces flickering like broken film. It whispered in unison with itself. "Stay. Trade. Stay. Trade." Becky screamed, pointing the camera at it. The red light blinked. The thing froze, hissing, as if the recording heard it. Its faces convulsed, flickering faster. Grandma, Grandpa, Mom, strangers we didn't know. Then the VHS tape in Becky's bag went on by itself. The distorted voices of our grandparents filled the room again. "Don't trust them. Don't answer. Don't look." The mirror pulsed with light. Cracks spread across its surface. I realized then, the rules weren't to protect us from the house. They were to protect them, our real grandparents trapped inside the mirror. Whatever wore their faces now had lured us here for the exchange. Becky dropped the camera, grabbed a shard of wood from the floor, and hurled it at the mirror. The glass shattered, the sound deafening. Light exploded outward. The crawling thing shrieked, its shifting faces melting into a blur. It collapsed, thrashing, before dissolving into black smoke that seeped into the cracks of the floor. When the light faded, the mirror was gone. The house was gone. We were standing in the middle of the gravel road, backpacks at our feet. Behind us, only forest. No house, no porch, no grandparents. Becky picked up her camera. The recording light was still on. She stared at me, pale. "Tyler," it filmed everything. We walked until we finally reached the main road. Hours later, a truck driver stopped to pick us up. We told him we'd gotten lost hiking. He didn't ask questions. Mom was waiting when we got home. She smiled, hugged us tight. But as she pulled back, I saw it. That same too bright glint in her eyes. That same stretched smile. And in my head, I heard it again. The exchange isn't finished.